From ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 in Southern California. This is BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with your host, Tyler Jorgensen.
Welcome out to BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio. I am your host, Tyler Jorgensen, and today I have the honor and pleasure and privilege of interviewing one of my good friends. Matt Frew is the CEO and other important titles of ShipZoom.com. ShipZoom is a fulfillment company that makes ship happen. But more importantly, Matt is an awesome human and great friend. And I'm excited to have you on the show, Matt. Welcome out. I'm
excited to be here. I always love talking to you, Tyler.
I don't know what your actual title is. Is it like Chief Ship Officer?
No, we don't. We try not to do any of the maked up titles type of things. So I am CEO, Chief Executive Officer, and owner of ShipZoom.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I like to start at the very beginning, and I know your story is a little different than some companies. But when was the moment that you first realized that you're an entrepreneur?
The moment that I first realized that I was an entrepreneur was when, I was probably 17 years old in high school. And so in high school, you have the opportunity when you're junior or senior to leave campus and go eat lunch. And there's not great options on campus at school. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to raid my parents' fridge and freezer, and I'm going to go ahead and cook up hot dogs and hamburgers and sell them in the parking lot. And so that's what I did. And then again,
cool take on the old lemonade stand idea is the high school hot dog stand. I love it.
Yeah. And unbeknownst to my parents, they didn't realize that they were funding a business on campus of the high school. And then again, probably about when I was 25 years old, there was an issue. I worked for UPS for a little bit during the recession, just to get some good benefits and stuff. And there was a time that the vending machine guy, he increased the price of the soda to 55 cents. And you'd have thought that somebody had killed somebody. And the whole UPS crowd was like all up in arms. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and buy all of the soda at Costco, all of the candy bars, and I'm going to sell it out of the back of my car. And so I was making, while I was working at UPS, I had a side hustle in the parking lot selling, all of the vending machine stuff. So, I mean, there's a problem, you see an opportunity, you fix it, and you capitalize on it.
I think that is one of the core tenets of what makes an entrepreneur different than somebody who may be a business owner or maybe, maybe in the entrepreneurial space, is that entrepreneurs see problems. They don't see problems, they see solutions. Where they see problems, they see opportunities. Where other people complain, you see there's a path, right? How did you get involved in ShipZoom?
So I got involved in ShipZoom at the rightful age of 15. It's funny because I'll share with people when they ask me what I do and how long I've been here. I've been here for over 23 years. I started working for who now is my business partner at the age of 15, where his nephew, who was a friend of mine in high school, approached me and asked if I wanted, to come help his uncle ship leather coats to Nordstrom's because he had about 5,000 leather coats that he had to get shipped out. And I said, absolutely. I love making money. Let's go. And I found myself being invited back by the owner at that time, every single day. And I saw my friends dwindle away, and I'm like, wait, where did everybody go? So I've been making ship happen for over 23 years, since I was 15 years old. And just watching the whole evolving world of e-commerce. It wasn't called e-commerce then. It was direct to retail, and sending it to the retailers and getting the shipment sent out that way. But then watching it evolve after PayPal came on board and scraping all of that data. That was fun.
It's interesting. I mean, for those that have been around e-commerce for its evolution, to realize like it was really hard to sell stuff online till PayPal made it a little bit easier. I mean, a lot of people got started on eBay and started just kind of introducing it that way.
Right.
But you've been in the shipping side of it. So at a high level, what does ShipZoom do? How does it add value in the marketplace?
Our business model is considered to be what the market calls a third-party logistics company, or a 3PL. I hate that term. I don't call ourselves a 3PL because I don't want to be considered a third party who doesn't really care about somebody's product. We try and call ourselves a partner shipper, where we are your partner and we ship your products for you. And if we see something that you could be doing differently, we're going to let you know. And so I don't know if that's a high enough level for you.
Yeah, that's good. So when people buy stuff online, that stuff has to get shipped. Not everyone's shipping out of their garage, and not everyone has their own fulfillment center to fulfill products. The people in between work with ShipZoom, and you guys make all that happen. So
exactly.
So when people buy stuff online, if you bought a Christmas ornament last year, it probably came out of Matt's fulfillment center.
Exactly.
But all right, so now we're going to get into the nitty gritty of stuff. What was the first big, like, life-changing challenge that you faced as an entrepreneur, and how'd you overcome it?
The biggest,
Sure. Biggest or first, your choice.
Yeah. So probably the biggest decision as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, that I had to make was trying to figure out how to construct a buyout of one of my partners who I did not really want to be in the business anymore. That was a gut-wrenching full year of trying to figure out, how do I do this? Because one of the things with me, and this is kind of a fault of my own sometimes, is that I'm big on relationships. And they matter. And I don't like burning bridges. But at the same time, I know exactly what I want. And I need to construct something so that there were no bridges burnt. And so that was probably one of the biggest struggles that I have seen as an entrepreneur, of managing those partnerships and getting that sealed. And
I'm like you, that relationships are really important to me. And it is fascinating how hard it is when you need to break up with a customer, with a partner, with anything. Like it can be like going through a divorce, or it can be like, it's a major thing, especially if you spent a good amount of time with that person. What advice do you have for people that might be in one of those hard situations of how to move forward?
Yeah, the advice that I would give to anybody going through a negotiation with a partner is this: if you are on the offensive and wanting to do the buyout, be very cognizant and aware of what it is that you're really asking of this person. And don't ever offer something that you aren't willing to take yourself. And that was something that really helped me navigate through this partnership and this buyout with my partner. Is I was able to construct something that I would be willing to take myself. Why? Because when that negotiation happened, I was able to say at the end of the day, at the end of the conversation, hey, if you're not going to take this offer, I'm willing to take it. And that splits the partnership. And that creates that communication creates the fact that, hey, this he's really looked at what he's doing to me, and we can work through this.
I have been in a partner conversation very similar, where they presented what they wanted for me, and we got down to like the end of it, and I said, okay, so you guys all think that this is fair? Like, yeah, this is fair. I was like, cool. Then I'm offering the same deal back to you.
Yeah.
And they're all of a sudden like, well, no. And I'm like,
then it's not fair.
And then what you're doing is saying, this is a good deal for me, not a good deal for Tyler, because you wouldn't take it, right? Now, there's obviously emotion involved and things like that. You were at a place you were willing to leave, and that the emotion adds a lot into it. But I think that's really good advice. If you approach it from, I sometimes don't like the term win-win, because that's not really possible. It just needs to be fair. Like if it's fair and balanced, then you're right. Either side of the agreement should be able to take it.
Right.
So you went through that, and you guys, I mean, you ship a lot. There has been a lot of changes in e-commerce and in shipping. What are some of the big changes in the industry, and how have you guys approached those?
Yeah. So one of the probably the biggest change in the industry in the last 5 years, it's this. So 10 years ago or so, Amazon came out with, well, it's probably longer than that now. I can't even remember, but Amazon came out with the product called a Kindle, right? And what they did with that was they took physical books and they put it digitally. And so now you're reading off of a Kindle. In the last 5 years, the biggest flip that we've seen is that consumers love to see and touch books. There's something to a book where you can see it, you can touch it, you can smell it, you can feel the wind of the pages, go across your face. Like all of the senses are triggered in a physical product. And so the sales of books in the last 5 years has absolutely just gone through the roof. And that's probably one of the biggest changes that I've seen in regards to a physical product being shipped out. Now, in the last little bit, I remember the days where I was logging into people's PayPal accounts and scraping the data, and then putting together a CSV file and then uploading it into UPS WorldShip and shipping products that way. We have the amazing tools these days of you have this e-commerce platform, a lot like Shopify or ClickFunnels or WooCommerce or whatever it is, that can tie directly into another software like ShipStation. And we can easily take that data of the orders and ship it. Like that has been the biggest change in e-commerce, I feel, in the last 10 years.
I was talking with somebody today who has their e-commerce store built on WordPress, and it was very clear the person was a little bit old school. And I'm not anti having a store on WordPress, but like I build most of my sites on Shopify, and I've done both. But his entire perception of the market was what I feel a little bit outdated. Well, it's nice because I don't have to keep paying for the app once I've paid for it. I'm like, well, you also realize that means they're not going to maintain or upgrade that app for you. And so
Right.
The big change I've seen, even just in the last 12 years since I've been building e-commerce websites, is how much is like hard coded, have to be figured out by the entrepreneur, and how much is just an integration you can plug and play and it's going to work. And if I need to have ShipZoom shipping my product, it's not super tricky. There's software and there's technology, and then there's repeatable processes. So you can focus on the parts of the business of selling stuff instead of all the things behind the scenes. And those automations, when I built my first e-commerce store, it was PayPal buttons on a WordPress site, right? And then it was a front page site, and then WordPress was next, and then BigCommerce, and now everything's on Shopify. But
what was your very first e-commerce product?
So I did an info product first for real estate agents, and then I launched a diet product, and that product took off.
Was it HCG? Can you even say that now? Is that legal to say?
We had actual Health Canada approved licenses.
Yeah.
So it was HC6, which if you
look at a 6, it looks like a G.
Looks a lot like something else. So
yeah.
But we had natural product numbers and everything. And so, but that was all stuff that I learned of going through that process, was like how to stay legal when other people are willing to not, because it wasn't a world I was willing to play in.
No, you don't want to go to jail.
True. How many team members do you guys have now?
Right now, we are right about 30 team members. We usually fluctuate during the holidays to around 55, 60.
And what are some of the challenges of leading a team that size?
The biggest challenge is this. When we see an influx of orders throughout a holiday season or a launch of some sort, the hardest challenge is getting the labor and the manpower to move that much product. We can do it. It's just a matter of, it's the rubber band effect. It's pushing as hard as we can to get as many bodies in this physical location as possible, and then retract them, right?
Yeah.
That's
And so I know
right.
you found a kind of a cool solution of that rubber band. I think you even have a name for that team that you have come in, right?
Yeah. So those are our we call them our reserves. So it's our reserve crew. And we kind of modeled it a lot like, I mean, if you look at the US Army, they have, the reserves. And this reserve crew that we've put together is 99% stay-at-home moms who are looking for flexible hours and looking to just work when they can. And it's usually at a time from 10 until 2 in the afternoon when their kids are at school. And so the stay-at-home mom workforce, if you have a business and you can tap into that, they're absolutely amazing.
Yeah, there's a company that a lot of people I knew worked for, that they were like a flashlight sales company, and their entire team was stay-at-home moms that worked between 10 and 2.
Yep.
And that's everything they built. Now then, if you moved up, you ended up working more hours, but that was their model, and it was pretty neat. I thought it was a cool way to do it, because that's a lot of those people are massively overqualified, but looking for something that keeps them flexible.
Yep. Because ultimately what they want to do is they want to be home with their kids and still, have the flexibility of having some extra money to spend.
Absolutely. Matt, let's pretend that you can see the future.
Okay.
Probably, maybe you can.
Okay.
I'm going to pretend you can just do it. What is something that's coming for physical product, e-commerce, entrepreneurs in the next couple of years that they need to be ready for?
So that's a really hard question to answer, just because we just went through this whole COVID-19 thing, where we saw basically the advancement of e-commerce in a short window of time. In about 9 months, we saw probably about 5 years worth of growth right now. And anybody in e-commerce was drinking from a fire hose, and somehow we all survived. I truly think that we're going to just continue to go off of what we've learned through this last year, and we're going to see a lot more e-commerce. It's just going to keep growing. I think that there's going to be services a lot like Uber and Lyft that will be delivering the e-commerce products directly to our homes instead of the UPS, FedEx, and USPS and Amazon. I think you're going to have a lot of growth within the private sector of being able to warehouse products locally in their own neighborhoods and have these people get paid for it and deliver these products.
Yeah, it's interesting how we go, and Amazon's such a great example of what has happened, where we go from centralizing everything, right? Oh, let's get rid of all these bookstores. It's all going to come from us. And then all of a sudden going back into a decentralized manner. Like but it's adjusting. It's not an exact replication, but Amazon now has local, small, almost like bodegas, like little small stores.
Yep.
But the data that they're used to be able to make sure they have the products that neighborhood wants, and the things like that, is remarkable. The amount of data that's out there. I think there's a big shift in even just in the info space, where I'm a big believer of blending the digital with the physical. I think like you the way you describe books is really a big deal. And I think it's great if somebody is in the physical or the info space. How can you add physical products into it? You have a lot of customers that ship a lot of stuff. What are some of the commonalities of the people that seem to be successful and keep shipping?
Yeah. The number one commonality is this. They develop, if you want to have success in e-commerce, develop one product, focus on that one product until you make $1 million. Then you can focus on the next product. And until that first product hits $1 million, do not try to expand your SKU count until that one product has hit the $1 million. It is amazing to me. If you're familiar with Organifi and Drew Canole and what he's done with Organifi, it was absolutely amazing to me to watch him prove this concept so many times they didn't they didn't really change the concept when they'd come out with a new product. So their green juice just crushed it. They hit $1 million, and they created their next one, which was red juice, right? But they matched it. They said, okay, we're not going to grow. We're not going to have another product come on until this red juice now does $1 million. And so they just did that over and over again. And they saw like, okay, if this product isn't going to hit $1 million, let's scrap it, move on to the next one.
I hope that people realize that are listening how powerful that advice is. So many times I have clients who are like, okay, we have this website and I want to get 5,000 SKUs on it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't know what people are coming to your website for at that point. Like you're manufacturing this product, let's sell that, right? Or you're importing this product, let's focus on that. And I heard once a saying that every SKU you add to your business, like adds an order of complexity by 7 or something like that. And so, but basically it's not just 1 + 1 is now 2 products or 2 areas of breaking point. It's amplification. There's that. It's significantly harder. And you and I have talked before about people who started and they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on inventory of all these SKUs. It's beautiful. They have it all figured out, but then they don't even know how to sell one of them.
Right.
So it also is like a risk balance, right? Like where you're not going to get stuck with $10 million of inventory because you did 30 products or 100 products. You started with one, focused on making that work.
And that's one of the saddest days for me, and the hardest days for me, is to see companies just spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a product or on their company, on their business, on their e-commerce business. And I've had to throw so many products away into the trash, into the dumpster, and just like it rips me and tears me apart.
Yeah, it is. I'm all about failing forward, right? Like, okay, we tried something, it didn't work, we tested it, but it's really hard when you see that failing, like where the test wasn't done intelligently or cautiously, right? So then you're just seeing waste at that point, and that's super hard. What are some of the now, obviously, other than doing more than one product, what are some of the commonalities of the people who come in guns blazing with you and then just fizzle out?
Yeah, that fizzle out, that don't have
or just never take off, either way.
Yeah, not really truly understanding that if you are going to do an e-com or own your own business for that matter, and I always tell people this, for the first 3 years, expect to work minimum 80 hours a week on your business for the first 3 years. And those companies or those entrepreneurs who come to us with a product and don't realize this, and like this is just a side hustle, it's almost guaranteed 99% of those people will not succeed because their heart isn't into it.
And you have to have grit, because you will face challenges as an entrepreneur. You will face challenges, especially in e-commerce. And if the first time that you get a new Google algorithm, or the first time there's an iOS update, you're done. Well, like if you don't have grit and perseverance, if you haven't really committed to it, you're not going to make it through. And I am a big believer of starting things as side hustles, but there is a point pretty quickly where you have to decide you're either going to try to make it work, or it's just going to sit there as an idea. It's very hard to scale something as a side hustle.
Yep. Agreed.
So, I mean, you have this really cool lens, and it's similar to us with our agency, where we get to see what's working inside business, to see commonalities of what's working and also what's not. And you get to see even more with really the trends of what's happening in shipping and in rates, and like you guys get impacted by fuel embargoes. I don't know, all kinds of stuff. Right? All kinds of things impact you. Have there been any are there any success stories of clients that you just think, I wish everyone knew this story?
That put me on the spot a little bit.
I know. And it's always hard when it's like a specific client, but I just think, I mean, you get to see a lot of really cool things. And even if you don't want to talk about the client.
Honestly, so what comes to my mind right now, this was an amazing story for me, is that one of my clients, and I'm not going to name names.
It's good.
But I am going to give the concept, is that she was an artist. She came up with a very niched coloring book, and she sold that coloring book like crazy. And when the coloring book first hit our docks, I saw it and I'm like, this, I don't see it. I don't see it. But it was so well put together specifically for that niche that she sold them like crazy. And it just blew my mind how many coloring books were leaving the warehouse, going to this specific niche that just she crushed it. And that was probably one of the biggest in the last year. One of the biggest products that was like, holy cow! I didn't realize this demographic needed coloring books.
Yeah. And I think that continues to surprise me. And I've seen those types of things almost every year where it's like, there's no way that there's this many people interested in paying this much for this random thing. And then there are. And then there's other things that you think are going to take off and they don't. And that's when the joys of testing, but you never know. Like, it's the old perfect formula, right? Find an irrationally passionate market, ask them what they want, and then give it to them, right? And I think the lesson of finding that niche and then staying simple with the product is really, really powerful. I think it's hard to underestimate just how powerful, or hard to overstate just how powerful that is, to really stay focused on a narrow business.
Yep.
You just the opportunity to win is so much higher. And I think a lot of people get addicted to the idea of coming up with a new idea. Well, I found a new product to sell. It's like, cool, the last one isn't selling, but now you have two things on your site that aren't selling. So what's next for ShipZoom? What big stuff is coming?
Big stuff that's coming down the pipe. We just purchased 2 laser engravers. The laser engraving of products, making them very specific to people and to your customers is big right now. Because if you can give them almost, that's the irresistible offer, right? Is if you can customize that directly to them. We've seen some success there. And then also tapping into a print-on-demand sublimation printer for T-shirts, and mostly just to test a T-shirt or two to see what is going to sell and if it's going to take flight there. So it's constantly. I kick myself all the time. I think about probably about 15 years ago. Well, yeah. So I've been shipping for Russell Brunson for quite some time. About 15 years ago, he called me, and I don't remember. He called me from an airport. He said, "Matt, you need to buy a DVD burner." I said, "A DVD burner? Why do I want those?" He's like, no, like a DVD burner that can burn like 70 DVDs at a time.
Right.
If you can get that, like, you're going to be golden. And at the time, I'm like, this guy's crazy. Like, I'm not going to do that. That's not my lane, right? And I realized I left so much on the table by not listening to that advice and taking action. Because all of a sudden, what blew up? Courses, on DVD.
So, but on the contrary of that, right? On the flip side is you staying focused in your core competency, right? Allowed you to stay more agile, you did a lot of things during that time that you may not have been able to done had you made the business more complex.
And that's very true. And thank you for bringing that up, because at that time,
it was your own advice. I'm just flipping it back.
Yeah. We weren't doing $1 million in revenue on our core offer, right? Which our core offer was shipping and fulfillment. And so now we're at a point where we have our core offer, we have our systems and processes in place, and we have a team in place that we can look at these other avenues to generate more profitability.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of really good lessons for anybody in anything e-commerce or business, really. But so really have enjoyed that. To me, business isn't just about business. It is not only about relationships, but it's about creating the lifestyle that we want. What is one item on your personal bucket list you're going to accomplish in the next 12 months?
In my next 12 months, I want to help and guide my wife to hit her first $1 million year. And that's probably my biggest goal for the next 12 months.
That's cool. I thought you were going to say like go on a brocation with Tyler, but whatever. That's good too, I guess.
Well, we could do that too.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And so as we wrap up, why don't you tell a little bit about what your wife's doing and about your guys' show?
Yeah. So my wife, we've started a business together called The Bold Logic, which is a loving boldly company. We host a podcast called The Husband-in-Law, which is a podcast hosted by myself, my wife, and her ex-husband. And we just share our stories of love, marriage, divorce, ex-love, and going through that life together. One of the things that my wife she's become an amazing inspiration to me of being able to look at people in a lens of how can I love this person more instead of, hey, being judgmental towards an individual. She's putting together a lot of courses and materials of how you can take yourself out of the drama and accept the people for who they are and show them love. So
super awesome. So people can find Matt at shipzoom.com. They can find him on Instagram. They have ShipZoom. Also, you can find his personal one at Matt Frew. And where can they find more about The Bold Logic? What's the website for that?
The website, well, you can find us on Instagram, The Husband-in-Law.
There you go.
On Instagram, that's probably the easiest way to find us.
Beautiful. I love it. Now, to all my Biz Ninjas, wherever you are listening, watching, tuning in, streaming, whatever it is, it's your turn to go out and do something.
Thank you for listening to BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with Tyler Jorgensen. Please make sure to subscribe so you're first to hear new interviews and episodes. If you found this podcast to be valuable, please share it with a friend. Don't forget to visit our online dojo at bizninja.com to claim your reward for listening to the show.